I'm going to be watching Hasan Piker breaking down a statement by Natalie Wynn, aka Contrapoints. Natalie Wynn, aka Contrapoints, is a far left video essayist. And, well, not far left, but she's definitely like sympathetic to leftists, socialists, and communists. But anyways, she released a statement in reference to Israel-Palestine. It's insufficiently radical for Hasan Piker. Hasan Piker is going to have a series of bad political analyses, and I will be analyzing his bad analysis. So without further ado, let's bring this gentleman onto the screen and break it down.
Many leftists feel betrayed because I haven't made a video on Palestine. Do they actually want a Contrapoints video on Palestine? Will they be happy if I get in the bath and pour milk on a mannequin of Benjamin? What's going on with Contrapoints? Yeah, I'm gonna briefly touch on that as well, because I mean, I said this like a while back where I was like, listen, this is not for like any person. I said this on my Discord a while back where I was like, now that it's becoming more like acceptable and appropriate for a lot of people who are terrified of their quote unquote brand being associated or tarnished in any capacity with like Israel Palestine stuff, you'll see a lot more people like openly reveal takes, okay, openly say what their points are. And I think, I mean, something I said back then, this was like months ago, was if you come out after like, 20 months of, or 18 months at the time, I think it was, of like, to like make a statement, and your statement revolves around like how all of these people that were correct from the start are actually evil and bad or whatever, and that your feelings really matter in this process. Like if you come out and do any of that like wishy-washy shit, or if you come out and do any of this like both sides are kind of bad type bullshit when you're talking about like,
I gotta pause right here. So people who were right from the start, so zero self-reflection, zero self-awareness, zero self-criticism. Got it. Okay, so we're starting out strong. And then also this mealy-mouthed, my feelings are more important than the genocide thing. Number one, I don't think anybody said that. Now, you could say that it's implied through these statements where it's like, well, actually, I have a really nuanced take about Israel-Palestine that nobody's going to understand and everyone's going to attack me for. So I'm just not going to share it. Yeah, that's pretty cringe. Stand on business, say what you mean what you say, right? It's actually relatively straightforward when you think about it that way. And so, like, I think I can stand on business. Luckily enough, I have a small enough audience that I can stand on business routinely without getting absolutely eviscerated. But the point is, I stand on business. Israel has a right to exist as a nation state. Okay? The Jews and the Israelis have the right to have a territory with a defined border that they should not have to deal with rocket attacks and bus bombings and people getting their heads chopped off with garden implements and women being kidnapped and raped and then returned 20 months later as corpses, right? That's what the Israelis should suspect. That's the way that they should live at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to Palestinians should have the same thing. They should have an independent nation state that is connected. That way, the West Bank and Gaza can trade and they can move back and forth freely between those two locations. Build a new highway. I have no idea, but they should have some sovereignty over their own ability to get food, ability to establish physical security, their ability to create a complex social apparatus, and their ability to create an economically viable zone. Okay? So, yeah, like Palestinians also deserve justice. The problem is that you have Palestinians who believe that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and that involves destroying the Israeli government, which is an impossible task. They're not going to win that, and nobody except for freak psycho leftists online support that. And then you also have the Israelis who are using the bad behavior of the Palestinians as an excuse to make the Palestinians suffer in revenge for October 7, 2023. So actually, no, Hasan Piker, you're not right from the beginning. Fuck you. You're very stupid. And the fact that you think that you can shame other people for trying to have some level of nuance or understanding, you're a dumbass. Christ, I hate this guy.
Oh, free Palestine that is happening, then I'm gonna talk about it, okay? And that's basically basically, it's sad to see, but that's basically what Contrapoints did, like to a T almost. Okay, and I like Contrapoints. I've never had any issues with her. I don't really care about like all the other controversies that she's been in or whatever. You know what I mean? She's, for those of you who don't know, Contrapoints is a bread tuber. She was one of the OG bread tubers. Like, she would make these really long, well thought out YouTube video essays, you know, bisexual lighting, all of that, right? And she had been, I guess, noticeably absent. I don't really run around being like, why is my favorite YouTuber not saying anything about this issue or that issue or whatever. I mean, it is odd when like you're a political content creator, or you have major political opinions be known, and you don't really say anything about like perhaps one of the most significant, one of the most impactful global incidents that is unfolding in real time. It is.
I do love this rationale as well, because we are talking about 1,100 person terrorist attack. Then we're talking about revenge against 2.2 million people. We're talking about 200,000 deaths allegedly being created by secondary effects, and 65,000 deaths, a third of whom were militants that are actually tabulated. So yeah, it's totally fucked up. I'm not saying it's not fucked up. Obviously it is. However, did Hasan Piker carry this energy for the Arab awakening? Did he carry this for, I don't know, the 500,000 that died in the Syrian civil war? Did he carry this energy for the Iraq war, which, by the way, I almost guarantee you he blames all of the civilian death on American intervention. But if you actually look at the stats, 80 to 90, Iraq body count project, I'm not going to pull it up again. I've already pulled it up half a dozen times. But the point is that like 3/4 of the deaths caused, 80% of the deaths caused were Shia and Sunni militias just butchering the shit out of each other and civilians. Do we have that level of energy? You know, for the 200,000 dead in Iraq, that could go up to 1 million. Like I'm sure he says 1 million. Of course not. Because the only thing that matters on the planet is Israel-Palestine. Conservative liberalism says no state has a right to exist. Everyone has a right to mutual self-defense. Sure, I guess that like if you want to look on a principled basis, does a state have a right to exist? No, a state is ultimately made up of the people. However, if you're talking about a state being the pooling of the people's will, then yeah, I think that a state has a right to exist insofar as it has the consent of the governed. So I hope you're just not being a pedant.
Is odd, but I never was like, why won't you say anything, right? And I guess people were doing that a lot, and so she did. She came out and like released something, not on Twitter, mind you, but.
Sorry, well, QC John brings up an interesting point. Good morning, Cotter in chat. I'm not worthy of carrying the 3,000 IQ as I can, not seeing how Destiny tweeted at some random dude asking if his 12-year-old daughter had sex has any correlation with Trump. Yeah, how about that shit, DGG? How about that shit? So you're willing to take like a 10,000 IQ read of these kids were looking at porn, and they used promo code NordVPN in order to do so. So God punished them by drowning them to death. Okay, I think it's, you know, cringe, but you know, it is what it is. You're just saying, you know, it's a 10,000. You need to have 10,000 IQ to understand this joke. Where was the conservative critique of him asking a father who said like, oh yeah, when my, which by the way, for the father, he just shouldn't be sharing this much personal shit on the internet, especially Twitter. That was more of a Facebook post than a Twitter post. But a random conservative father said, oh yeah, the 12-year-old boy who my daughter has a crush on was pressure washing my driveway or my car. I forget what. So I come home and my 12-year-old daughter greets me at the doorway like a perfect angel trying to impress him. And Steven asks, did he smash ? And it's like, the fuck? You know, like, where's the 10,000 IQ read of that, you dickheads?
Instead on Reddit, which is, I guess, like a less hostile space to reveal this kind of thing. There are a multitude of different reasons as to why people don't speak out about that is unfolding in front of our eyes. For many content creators who like understand
Trojan Brother says there's a case at the ICJ that was submitted by South Africa against the Israeli government. You might want to start there. Why? If the United States and Israel don't recognize the ICJ, then who? And also, if they don't carry similar energy for other atrocities, why do we care about the ICJ?
And the violence that is happening, they might be worried about up the bag, for example. For some others, they're worried about the saying something wrong and then being like ridiculed or bullied or attacked, which is part of the reason why they will just say, "Oh yeah, free Palestine," and then they move on, right? Or like they rarely ever engage in this kind of stuff because it is supposed to be a third rail. It was considered the third rail of politics by design for a very long time, right? They don't want to get like, they don't want people to go after their advertisers. Why are people so afraid? What do you mean? Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
I'm looking, Hasan. Please tell me.
I've spent most of my professional career combating anti-Semitism. And
oh my God, I hate this so much. So I spent most of my career combating anti-Semitism, except for after October 7, 2023, when I effectively said that you could randomly accost Jews on college campuses because they probably support the Zionist project. Therefore, they deserve you to accost them. And realistically, is this even that big of a deal in reference to the ongoing genocide in Palestine? So yeah, so you were pro-Semitic until you started supporting street harassment of random Jews. And then also you and your orbiters have repeatedly said that effectively being a Zionist is equivalent to being a Nazi. Therefore, you should treat Zionists as Nazis. But then by your own definition, 80% of the Jewish population are Zionists. Therefore, you should treat 80% of the Jewish population as Nazis. Got it. Okay. Awesome. Definitely principled pro-Semitic Hasan. Amazing analysis so far. I love this.
Still do to this day. And it's like not even a question. Like people will just immediately be like, he's an anti-Semite. He's a take his money away. Deplatform him. Don't put him on any news outlets. Like what the no one should watch him. Why do people watch him? Like people get really vicious.
Yeah, I don't say you shouldn't watch Hasan because he's an anti-Semite. I say you shouldn't watch Hasan because he's a fucking idiot. But anyways, that's fine. Checking in with chat because conservative liberalism had a response. Being a pedant is my specialty, but words do mean things. I'm saying Israel doesn't have some God-given right to exist. Well, I mean, technically they do if you're a biblical literalist. How many war crimes, ethnic cleansing does it take to lose your right to exist? I don't know. But, Israel's certainly flirting with that through their conduct in Gaza. LB says, sheesh, just don't say pedo shit for fuck's sake. I mean, I agree with you. Sacred Snow says, how hard is it not to talk about kids online? For fuck's sake, I feel uncomfortable posting baby pics on my private Facebook for my family. See, I would post my kids growing up because I'm very proud of my kids. I love my kids. But my wife has a more conservative social media philosophy. But if people are going to be freaks and make like weird, gross comments, I would just block them and move on, right? Like, I don't care about it. But for me, Stephen, for instance, like, let's say that I accept the 10,000 IQ analysis of the dead kids looking at porn thing. But if you do the dead kids looking at corn via NordVPN, which is why God punished them thing, which is stupid atheist fedora posting bullshit, which I'll probably, if we have time for a podcast on the 27th, I don't know if we will, but if we have time for a podcast, we're probably going to talk about it. And then, so what was the 10,000 IQ analysis of asking about the 12-year-old? It's not. He's just trying to piss people off and be gross for negative attention. Haterade says, nah, that's funny too. It's the frat boy slang that makes it funny. Dude, what? I'm not saying that you have to grow up. You don't have to grow up, but like, grow the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Why are you talking about 12-year-olds? Why? Like, dude, let me tell you, the reason why I would never talk about 12-year-old in like a weird, gross sexual way is because I'm almost 40. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I have friends who have kids who are in their teenage years. And so therefore, I don't like want to be so gross and basically telling like dead baby jokes and ephebophile jokes and all that kind of shit to the point that my friends start looking at me sideways. I think Steven, love him, friend, whatever, he, he spends so much of his time online and he spends so much of his time trying to be outrageous that he just doesn't have that like external normal human calculus for like, oh, I might have to go to a barbecue and see normal human beings at some point. Maybe I should reel it in. Miles Otwell says, not to litigate Destiny so much, but I think his tweet is less about tribalism and more about you supported these cuts. These cuts end up in the horrible things, but Destiny has to make it grotesque. Sure. But what he's doing is he's setting up a lightning rod that has nothing to do with that topic. He's allowing lightning to strike the lightning rod, and then he's using the energy surrounding that topic in order to talk about something more serious. The content that you're talking about is actually not within the original lightning rod. You know what I'm saying? Monty Cool says, who says 80% of the Jewish population are Zionists? Where the fuck do they pull this number from? I mean, I'll take a look at it. Global polling on Jewish diaspora support for Israel. So here's a Pew Research. So you probably need to read it. 1/4 of U.S. Jews have lived in Israel or been there more than once. Most U.S. Jews are emotionally attached to Israel. Percent of U.S. Jews who say they are blah, blah, blah attached to Israel. Very, somewhat, not at all. So it looks like atheist Jews are not at all attached to religion, but they are a smaller population. People who are mildly Jewish are actually less, are 2 to 1 more attached to the state of Israel. And then the overall, it's like a 60-40 split. And if you look at these numbers, vary somewhat. It's 60, 70, 82 amongst Orthodox, 80 amongst conservatives, 60 amongst Reform, 40 amongst secularists, 60 amongst men, 60 amongst women, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like 60%. But I almost guarantee you that if I asked the not important people, 8 in 10 U.S. Jews say caring about Israel is an important or essential part of what being Jewish means. The not important drops down into the 20s or the 30s. And so, Madi Cool, you might be saying that, like, okay, well, according to these definitions, it's actually 60% are Zionists by the leftist definition. But actually, the leftist definition is supporting the existence of the state of Israel. So for the sake of flow, I'm going to move back into it. But I've also heard Hasan and Ethan Klein, who is a Jewish creator, cite some Pew Research poll or some poll that said like 80% of Jews support the general existence of the state of Israel, which according to a far leftist definition means that they're Zionist. For the sake of flow, let's get back into it.
There are entire networks organized around like doing this kind of like horrible thing, right? They will turn people into pariahs, right? By design. That is the point. That is the purpose, right? You get put on a list.
Hello, shaved dog butt.
Will actively come after you to try to like ruin your livelihood. But in any case, that's like part of the reason why a lot of people are afraid of it, because it's like the real type of cancel culture, right? It's not like cancel culture because you like said something that was when you were like a teenager, and now people are unearthing that and like yelling at you over it, like, but it's gonna go away in like a week. I'm talking like real cancel culture, like you're not allowed to, you get charged with terrorism like Kneecap did, or they won't let you advertise your band in the London metro stations like Kneecap did.
Oh, you mean when he was screaming death, death to the IDF? Yeah, sure. You're right. That is a excellent way to get deplatformed and demonetized. Absolutely.
Or you get put on a list, and then you have prominent civil rights groups like the ADL routinely coming after you in mainstream media and just like smearing you because who the fuck's going to say anything? Who's going to push back? You get your visas canceled. Like those are the real impactful, real consequential cancel culture shits, right? Not like a bunch of people on Twitter yelled at you for whatever you said back in the day. And And I think that that's a real reason why a lot of people don't say anything. But Natalie is a smart person, like a much smarter, much better thought out person than these people that I'm talking about. She's not like,
And also then you, Hasan. So maybe if she's a smart person and she disagrees with you, you should listen to what she actually has to say.
a random influencer that otherwise does like makeup blogs or whatever. And that's the reason why she's like trying to avoid controversy, because she doesn't want to get her like Lush sponsorship taken away from her. This is a political essayist, right? So I guess, and I didn't like look too deeply into this at all, but I guess like the reason why she didn't say anything about this for a very long time was because, and by her own admission, it was because you won't like what she has to say. She was a PhD candidate in philosophy before YouTube. I know. It was just, I will say this much, as someone who really appreciates Contrapoints perspective, as someone who has collaborated with her, someone who's talked to her, someone who's met her, I will say I'm disappointed. Okay, it's. I know that everyone will say I told you so, whatever, but like, it still sucks. Okay, it still sucks, and maybe some people will say, "What's wrong with her response? She didn't say anything wrong, right?" And
I might skip 5 minutes because it's taking him a while to get into it.
I think she basically crafted a message as to why she had not spoken about this issue that much.
I'm going to skip 5 minutes because he's a yapper just like me.
All right, let's open the image in a new tab because there's so much happening here. There's a lot. It's an effort post. Okay. Contrapoints, user Contrapoints. And I think like it's significant that she posted it on Reddit rather than on Twitter, because I think she knows like the environment. Like, so many.
She would have gotten murdered on Twitter, by the way.
Leftists feel betrayed because I haven't made a video on Palestine. Do they actually want a Contrapoints video on Palestine? Will they be happy if I get in the bath and pour milk on a mannequin of Benjamin Netanyahu? No. I have posted about Gaza occasionally and have quietly given money to Palestinian aid organizations, but I think that what leftists really want is for me to join their chorus of anger. They sense some hesitation on my part and are judging me very harshly on my presumed opinions. I'd rather be judged on my actual opinions. So here they are.
There's nothing wrong with that opening. That opening is perfectly fine. That being said, if I was trying to nitpick it, what I would say is some topics deserve a certain amount of reverence. And she's referencing the fact that when she was doing a Jordan Peterson essay, she got into a bath with a cardboard cutout of Jordan Peterson and had like a conversation with him, while like sipping white wine and all that kind of stuff. And so the point is that like, does she need to do the same treatment for Bibi Netanyahu, some like outrageous, overproduced skit? No, of course not. However, just as an example, she probably has like a essay that might be like, I don't know, 8 years old at this point, where she covered the Baltimore riots. And it was actually just her talking over the Baltimore riots. And she was just like splicing in clips and talking about lead in the gasoline and lead in household paint and redlining and the current neighborhood structure and demography that is still, despite redlining being banned as a practice, which is effectively like you can only sell black people properties within certain neighborhoods. Even though that practice has been illegal probably for 2 generations now, if you look at the demography of these neighborhoods, it's still, this bad area with these bad schools is 99% black. And then this good area with good schools is 97% white, 2% Asian, 1% black. And so even if you don't have segregation as the law of the land, you still have you still have segregation in practice, if not in law. And she didn't get in the bath with like random historical figures for that essay. She just talked about the topic. So responding to chat, just because they are saying important things and I want to keep up with chat as well. Trojan Brother says, because the rest of the world does, you can't rely on American and Israeli exceptionalism to cure ills that cause diplomatic ends are better than might makes right. Well, guess what? I've said this quote half a dozen times on this stream, and it's not a moral analysis. It's a analysis of how power works. The strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. Okay, it's a Greek quote from like 2,000 years ago. And the truth is, I don't have to give a shit what the I can give a shit what's right. I can care about what's right, but I don't have to care what the ICJ has to say if they're hypocrites when it comes to Middle Eastern and North African countries brutalizing their own people. But they'll write out like a thesis paper for why Bibi Netanyahu deserves to be incarcerated and killed for his participation in the Gazan genocide. If you want me to care about the ICJ, number one, have consistency in your judgments and your enforcement. Number two, have a military bigger than the United States. Before I get back into it, for the sake of flow, Groovy McCrout says, I'm not in a DGG cult. I just stand Biden, drink soy milk, justify ethical incest, and can go bar for bar with every Bosch debate. Yep.
Israel committing in Gaza. Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. I also feel a lot of other things. I think if she had basically stopped it here, even here, this is like kind of silly to be like, look, I'm a content creator. I talk about a litany of different issues. I've done all of this stuff. Is Israel doing it in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Is Israel an apartheid state? Yes. Free Palestine. Boom. It's over. No content.
No, you fucking idiot. Saying free Palestine is not good analysis because nobody agrees on what free Palestine means. If you're a normie lib, then you mean free Palestine with a two-state solution and then also dignity for Palestinians who travel into the state of Israel for business or for work or for social opportunities. That's what you mean by free Palestine if you're a fucking lib. If you're a leftist, what you mean is the dissolution of the Israeli state. So pretending that these things are one and the same and that you just have to say a two-word policy is like the pinnacle of fucking 80 IQ political analysis. I fucking hate this guy. I really do. He makes politics so much worse. Nice delts though. Let's be real. I don't do PEDs. I've never done PEDs. I think that Hasan probably has done PEDs. Let's be real here. His head looks almost in proportion to his body. This is a good angle for him. And then also look at his delts. His delts are well defined, separate from his bicep. Good for you, Hasan, in reference to that.
Controversy, okay? No issue whatsoever. Like, why is this issue being treated as though it is it's annoying or it's inconveniencing? You know what I mean? Like, why is this? Like, would we say this about I mean, plenty of people, I'm sure they didn't have the full knowledge of when it was happening, but I'm sure plenty of people, if they did, would have a similar opinion back then, right? But it's just so incredibly disingenuous. I have the other half.
What's disingenuous? I think this guy doesn't know what words mean. Oh, let's double check that I know what words means. Not candid or sincere typically, or pretending that one knows less about something than one really does. No, I don't think that she's being disingenuous at all. I think she's being very sincere, Hasan. I think you don't know what the word disingenuous means.
I have a verse statement as well. Don't worry. I have it all. And what's frustrating about this entire thing, and I mentioned this before, and I repeated myself last night, and I know everyone was like, oh, is this about Contrapoints? It's like, it's not. It's not just about Contrapoints. This is for everyone. This statement is universal. Okay? So before I get to reading the rest of this, the but, and then the post but part of Contrapoint's statement, okay? Here's what my opinion is. This is...
All right, hold on. I'll let him read it.
Has not changed for the past 2 years at this point. If you are like me, a spoiled child of America, okay? If you live in the heart of empire and your tax dollars are contributing to...
Oh, no. You got to read the whole thing, dumbass. If you are like me, a spoiled child of America, and your focus after 20 months of live-streamed Holocaust of children in Gaza is still of your personal feelings instead of unconditional support to the victims of genocide, there is more honor in continuing to stay quiet. Okay. If you are like me, a spoiled child of America. I am not a spoiled child of America, but I'm a child of America, and I have a lot of privileges as a result. and your focus after 20 months of live streamed Holocaust of children in Gaza is still on your personal feelings, it's not. Instead of unconditional support to the victims of genocide, there is more honor in continuing to stay quiet. Okay. No one has my unconditional support no matter what. And by the way, this is obvious terrorist simping and sweeping. The unconditional part is he's saying, ignore the way that Hamas conducted itself on October 7th, ignore any indigenous support for Hamas, ignore what they would do if the actual Free Palestine agenda, like Ethan Klein asked what Israel should do in the wake of the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attacks. And Hasan Piker said, you should open the border. What sense of self-preservation or survival instinct would compel a state immediately after an invasive terrorist attack with butchery, rape, and murder? What would compel a state to open its border to the people with whom the attacking force emanated from? That was obviously such a fucking insane thing to say that I can't. It's like bordering on the naivete of like an elementary school child. Like somebody said earlier, actually it's right here. End sort, the Palestinians are being genocided, but only a one-state federal solution with reparations and right of return is acceptable. So I don't agree with this statement, but at least it's a policy position. So end sort, are you saying that, because I don't think the Palestinians would even accept the name Israel, but let's say that there was like the United Government of Israel and Palestine, and that there was the Israeli Federal Society where they basically had their state, and then the Palestinians had another state, but they both went up to a federal system, and the federal system had equal rights and provisions for both parties. And then both parties, like, you could travel back and forth and participate economically back and forth, but effectively, like, it was two states within one country apparatus. Is that what you're saying? Because I think that's ideal. I don't know if it's possible, but that could be ideal. That would be if everybody was on their best behavior. That would be if the Jews had no antipathy towards Palestinians, and if the Palestinians held no antipathy towards Jews. But I don't think that's going to work out in reality. Fashion 40 says, gotta love how America hates my people. I grew up in a red line neighborhood in NYC, believe it or not. Interesting. Free Palestine from Hamas, says Adayan. LB says, two-state solution, Connor, simple, equal rights, simple. Sure, but that's not what Hasan is saying. That's not what he's saying. Why would a trans person have a problem with Hamas? Well, I think Hamas might have a problem with a trans person. Kay says Hasan is wearing a shirt that says austerity is rich. Austerity is rich. Weird. Oh, Google what the difference between what counter and contra is. No. Okay. All right. LB just trying to piss me off. All right. Anyways. Funny, Palestinians live in an open air prison and Israel is on stolen land. You know, what pisses me off is every now and then on Twitter, I'll have like, this is Gaza before the war, and this is Gaza after the war. And the thing with Gaza before the war is they show this like picturesque, Mediterranean, obviously Arab architecture city by the ocean, and there's like kids playing and running around, and they show off like the hotel and like all this beautiful shit. And it's like, okay, so is it an open air prison / concentration camp, or is it Club Med, you know, Palestinian style? Like what was it? I'll eat. Anyways.
You are like me, a spoiled child of America, okay? If you live in the heart of empire and your tax dollars are contributing to unlimited bloodshed in the global south, but especially in Palestine right now, especially in Gaza right now, and your focus after 20 months of live
LB, that's not what he's saying. He's saying abolish the Israeli state. Get the fuck out of here. You think I haven't seen a billion clips of him saying abolish the Israeli state, that supporting Zionism as a concept is akin to supporting Nazism, that the Likud party is effectively Nazis and should be treated as such? You think that Hasan Piker is saying a one-state federal solution with two miniature states within the incorporated system, one Palestinian and one Israeli? No, that's not what he said. He said abolish the Israeli state, and then if it's Palestinian majority, then it's Palestinian majority. That's what he said. Don't piss on my leg and call it, say it's fucking raining. Stop.
Dreamed of men, women, and children in Gaza. The complete and utter annihilation, death, and destruction in Gaza is still on your personal feelings, how you feel about it, how the person.
Fuck you. Show me the text. Read me where she says my feelings are more important than the genocide.
Personal hysterics that you have developed.
Hysterics. You mean like watching people getting decapitated, shot in the back of the head, raped and murdered and all that kind of stuff, and that's hysterical. Got it. But you're the pro-Semite. You're actually the person who loves Jews, right? You know, if a few of them get decapitated, I mean, that's just justice, right? Like, what did you think a revolution was? Protests? Slam poetry? No. Revolution is people getting decapitated with garden implements.
Around this issue because of the takes that you see online. Okay, if you continue to center yourself and you are just like me, perhaps the most spoiled person on the planet, living in the United States of America automatically qualifies as the.
LB, do you think your comment helps? Connor, Palestinians are Semitic. No shit, I'm talking about Jews. I'm obviously using it colloquially. Do you think if I say anti-Semitic, then all of a sudden, like, you know, by including Palestinians, you've made the conversation more easy to understand? Or do you think you've made it worse? You made it worse, obviously.
Most privileged people on the planet, okay? Anything beyond unconditional support to the Palestinian emancipatory movement, anything beyond unconditional support to the victims.
Unconditional support for fucking the terrorist organizations? Yeah, sure, Hasan, fuck you.
Is ridiculous, okay? It's been 20 months. It's been 20 months. We've all seen the death. We've all seen the destruction. Stop trying to rationalize away and stop trying to normalize this death and destruction. It's not normal. People recognize that it's not normal, and our institutions are seemingly immovable, and yet we still persist, and yet we still continue to push them with the hopes that we can enact some sort of positive change, hopefully one day get some semblance of justice. But if you're not.
Through what mechanism? This is actually what pisses me off about Brittany Simon as well. Through what mechanism? Israel has all the cards when it comes to the military. Israel has a substantive amount of cards when it comes to diplomacy. America has all the cards militarily. The Palestinians don't have shit. The Arab states that typically support Palestinians are no longer supporting the Palestinians vocally or openly anymore. And the only support that the Hamas is getting is from Iran. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what level, through what mechanism will the Gazans and the Palestinians achieve justice? Because for me, the only thing that makes sense is the Palestinian people protesting and rebelling against Hamas. And by the way, Hamas has already killed the people who protested against them, establishing a new government, and then that new government suing for a rational two-state solution. That's the only way that I see out for Palestinians. Anything else ends up in more death, more deprivation, more destruction. So through what mechanism will you achieve justice for the Palestinian people? Hasan Piker is my question to you.
Not going to do all that if you can't if you can't see Palestinians as humans, but simply victims of circumstance. Okay.
Sorry, real quick. LB says by any means necessary. Okay. So just to clarify, LB. We're just gonna go ahead and do it. Sure. Twitter. If you don't want to watch, seriously, mute for a second. October 7th decapitation. Let's go ahead and find it. Where's the guy with a hoe? Hamas decapitates Ho. No, not Ho like a slut. What's wrong with you, Twitter? That's so fucked up. I'll just keep looking for it because LB said by any means necessary. So I'm going to show you the means. Hamas decapitation. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so no, this is a thief. That's not who I'm looking for. Where is it? I might look it up on the side, but I just want you to look. Cuts off head. Did they take it off for real? You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but there's a clip very early in the conflict where there's an Indonesian worker who's not even Israeli, and Hamas just decides, well, he's a foreigner, so he might as well, die because he's a part of the oppressive structure that comes after us. And they just fucking chop his head off. So this is the any means necessary, you mean? Okay, yeah. Here's a Hamas fighter who shot a random civilian, and he pauses in the gunfight so he can saw off the head of a dead person. Is this helping liberation, LB? Is this the kind of any means necessary that you're talking about? I mean, I could just show you all the girls. When I typed in ho, Twitter thought I was talking about promiscuous women. I could show you all the women that got massacred, but sure. Okay. So just answer me that question, I guess. And if I need to, I'll look up the video of the guy getting his head cut off with garden implements. But please tell me how the Palestinian cause is forwarded by decapitating random Indonesian workers. If you can answer that question, we'll take it from there.
Simply just a group of people that you don't want to think about as people, as human beings. Okay? Speak for yourself. I had a horror show of a childhood. Man, shut up. Shut up. You're doing it right now. Okay? What I'm talking about is our birthplace. Okay? As a part of growing up in the United States of America, you are automatically luckier than a Palestinian child. This is ridiculous. It's not even a question. You would never say this.
Okay, LB, so please explain to me. So you said oppressed people will get their freedom by any means necessary. No, probably dead. They're not getting their freedom. They're getting death. So if you mean that they're getting freedom through death, then sure. But please tell me how decapitating a Thai, Kay says he was Thai. Tell me how that's normal or that how that forwards the agenda. Please tell me how decapitating random Thai people frees Palestine.
About a Jewish child that was sent to Auschwitz. Okay? The only reason why you feel like you can
Connor, you're going to kill your stream? No, I don't care.
Say this is because something in your brain is stopping you from recognizing these people as human beings. That's it. That is at the heart of this controversy. Okay? If you try to intellectualize why Palestinians are suffering, if you do all of this instead of just like looking at this and seeing right from wrong, you're worse than like half of these conservatives, man. Half of these conservatives who are like genuinely ruthless people, okay? Incredibly selfish people. Even they, like I know someone, okay, that is related to a person who was at January 6th. That's how much of a MAGA booster they are. And they find what Israel is doing to be unconscionable. They're evangelical. They grew up with the mentality that Jews are special class people that must get Israel so that we can trigger the rapture. There are people like that that have seen the fathers carrying their daughters and their sons in plastic bags, the remains of them, and that's it. For them, it's over. How can you look at all of this as a destruction Okay, Cutie. What are you guys talking about? Cutie. This is not drama. I'm just giving you some serious shit. Cutie is Mormon also. Okay. What the Cutie's not evangelical anyway, or former Mormon. In any case, like this is such a uniquely violent circumstance. Okay, we've never had an instance where like we have seen the unfold in real time. That has never happened. Okay, in the past we've had glimpses of it. You know what I mean? Illegal incursions, death, destruction, violence, but never to this degree, and never in broad daylight in real time. Except the is actually exactly the original is exactly what I'm talking about. Are you kidding me? There was no internet, and half of the people outside of the German occupied territories were completely oblivious to what was going on in the death camps. Some Jews were suspicious. Some people that were being shipped to concentration camps were suspicious, and understandably so. They took action. The partisans did, right? But for the most part, people were not this tuned in to everything that was going on until the camps were liberated. Nazi propaganda, just like Israeli propaganda, was fairly strong at the time. And there were also obviously technological limitations that stopped people from figuring things out. There were surveillance reports that came out. Like I remember reading something about the British spy.
Okay, so Thomas Martinson says Hasan enjoys intergenerational privilege from the U.S. and genocidal state of Turkey. True. I mean, I think his dad is literally a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire. Thomas Martinson says, once again, this level of violence is pretty common. Listen, guys, what you can't have it both ways. And this is what I mean by having it both ways. You're in my chat, you're saying, oh, well, and by the way, this is only 2 or 3 people, so I'm not trying to like freak out. I'm not trying to yell or anything, but oh, this is justice. What are oppressed people supposed to do by any means necessary? Malcolm X. This level of violence is pretty normal, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, then fuck you then, right? Like, so for instance, if your side, because we are talking about sides, there's Hamas and there's the IDF in Israel, right? So if Hamas, per your logic, is morally allowed to walk into Israel, find civilians, roll grenades into their shelters, gun them down, kidnap women, display their bodies as trophies, rape some of them, kill some of them, jam foreign objects into their orifices, execute random civilians, decapitate Thai workers who have nothing to do with the conflict. If they're allowed to wholesale slaughter civilians, then why isn't Israel? Why isn't Israel? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Turnabout is fair play. Now, I'm of the opinion that all of that shit is bad, right? So in my moral worldview, not only should Hamas not target, rape, murder, stab, grenade, gun down, decapitate civilians, if they have a geopolitical beef, they should be attacking the armed forces of the rival nation, right? Attacking the IDF is perfectly fine. They can even use asymmetric and guerrilla tactics if they want. But the second they start attacking civilians, fuck them, and they all deserve to die. And then when it comes to the IDF can point to the fact that they've killed 60,000 people, yes, but 20,000 of them were militants. And then the 2 million people who are in Gaza right now, while all their buildings are destroyed and all their infrastructure is destroyed, they're actually providing food, water, medicine to these people. And so while I agree with you, this is oftentimes a feint so they can punish the Palestinian people. Yeah, I agree with that completely. But why wouldn't I side with the more humane side? Or why would I just say, fuck it, you both deserve each other, and then not care? I'll tell you right now, if you tell me that your side, the side of justice, is allowed to rape, murder, decapitate civilians, then I don't give a fuck what happens to you or your side. And what I mean by happens to you / your side, leftists, socialists, communists, Islamists, jihadists, you can all burn in hell as far as I'm concerned. So Rob says, sure. Is this not nitpicking? Sure, the beheading a corpse is wrong and unhelpful, but this could be a psycho co-opting the movement to do gratuitous violence through a rampage. That division for sure. No, we already know, Rob. We already know that this is normal. Like, dude, you can't say like, oh, how do we not know that this is just an outlier? It's because they posted the video in more videos just like it, in more pictures just like it all the fucking time. Were you not there on October 7th? Did you not watch them grabbing the head of Shani Luke, like grabbing her stinky dreads and holding up her corpse and parading her around like a fucking deer in the back of a truck? They were proud of it. They were proud of the fact that they murdered civilians. They were proud that they had corpses that they could show as victory trophies. Why would I pretend for even a second that they weren't proud of what they did on October 7th? What the fuck are you talking about? You're crazy. You're crazy. N-Sword says, what's with insisting on unconditional support in any means necessary? Yeah, that's funny because LB says unconditional support by any means necessary. Then we show her a beheading and she's like, well, I don't mean that. And it's like, oh, okay, so you do have conditional support. If the Palestinians start randomly decapitating people, you will condition your support. One side is oppressing the other side. Stop oppressing people and you're good. Yeah, this is, it's very dumb, LB. Very dumb. Chat, bully LB. She deserves it.
Agencies initially writing reports on these death camps, and it was so violent. It was so unimaginably violent. People didn't even believe it. Okay, they were like, "There's no way that's real." And in spite of all of that, the Nazis also made a fake, sanitized version of a camp that they brought the German Red Cross to, which was Nazi affiliated, and then the International Red Cross Association to. These are all very famous incidents. The Theresienstadt. Did I say it right? Probably not. Anyway, I'm moving away from the broader point that I was making, okay? Yes, a lot of these incidents might come across as familiar to you because that's precisely what Israel has been doing. They've been playing the Nazi-style playbook in perpetuity, playing itself out every single day. The only unique instance here is that we get to see the people that are victims to it in real time, in broad daylight. We hear their cries. We see them as human beings. There is more information on this stuff than ever before. But in any case, as I was saying, when all of this is unfolding and everyone is aware of it, if you're going to come out and be like, I was quiet for the past 20 months, but now I have a statement and it's wishy-washy and it's both sides bullshit or focusing on like leftists online, then spare yourself and everyone else the agita and just keep quiet. Just stay quiet. There's no reason to just come out. There's no honor in coming out like this to be like, here's why I didn't say anything.
The whole reason why she said I didn't say anything is because my opinions would upset the vast majority of left-wing people, and I didn't feel like detracting from their passion. That was a statement. LB says, Connor likes to put words in my mouth, but I'm solid in my convictions. LB, by any means necessary means that any means is available to you. You can do whatever you want in order to achieve the end goal. And so when you say that, you're giving license to violent organizations to do what any means necessary. Any means is on the table as long as it's pushing towards the goal. So that means that decapitation, rape, and murder as terror tactics against Israel to scare them from going after the Palestinians is on the table. Because unironically, Hamas thinks that that's the way to go. And then unconditional support means that you support, which is Hasan, by the way, who you have tepidly agreed with so far throughout this content. Unconditional means without conditions, means that you support them even if they do fucked up shit. There is no condition that they can violate that will cause you to not support their cause. I'm saying that's fucking psychotic and stupid as shit. And you're like, well, that's not what I said. And actually, here are some conditions. I'm starting to think LB is a co-host. Yeah, well, she knows how to trigger me. She does a good job. Yeah, you're fucking crazy. This is lefty gobbledygook. I'm going to start lifting weights while I get pissed off.
Okay. On the other hand, on the other side of this, if you want to know my opinion on this, and I've said it before, and I've said this about ICE protests as well, anti-ICE protests as well. I said this about people who want to fight back against the Trump administration now. Okay, if you get over yourself and you get over your own like moral hangups or anything like that, and then you support the Palestinian emancipatory movement, and that's it, and you say free Palestine, it don't matter what I said in the past. I'm here. I've learned my lessons. I've changed my mind. Or even if you just say, hey guys,
I've learned my lesson and I've changed my mind. He wants the results of a struggle session without going through a struggle session. He just wants Contra to know that she will be bullied so hard so they can skip the struggle session. Amazing.
I'm pro-Palestine. I've been pro-Palestine. I just haven't really spoken about it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. As soon as you do that, I'm with you. You know, I and many others in this movement.
It's like original sin and Christian forgiveness. As soon as you're no longer a Zionist, as soon as you're no longer a Zionist Nazi apologist, all of your sins are forgiven and we're on the same team. Oh, thanks, Hasan. Thank you.
We'll welcome you with open arms. Okay? They'll always do that because we need the numbers. Okay? There is no other way to fight back against this. This is the only way to do it, is to keep up the pressure. And you need more people from every different walk of life, from every different background, regardless of what their other opinions are. If they're united on this issue and they're protesting, then they're good with me. Okay? And I've always maintained this position. But if they cynically say that they're
LB, one guy's decapitation versus 100,000 dead civilians. So again, you're using very stupid logic to justify one murder. So you know what I can do, because I'm not a fucking leftist degenerate freak. I can say decapitating the Thai worker is not emancipatory. It doesn't help. I have conditional support for Palestinian emancipation, and one of my conditions is the fact that they don't decapitate random civilians. And then 100,000 dead civilians, you're, no offense, but you're kind of fucking lying, right? Like the actual body count as it stands right now is 60,000, with 200,000 projected to die from secondary side effects, which means dysentery and fucking diseases related to camping out for prolonged periods. So I think that Israel is causing those conditions so you can lay those dead at the feet of Israel. But there are plenty of pro-Israeli people who would say, that's not our fault. That's not on us. You attacked us. You blew our shit up. You killed our civilians. So of course we're going to come and fuck you up. So the 200,000 dead projected over the next several years, that's not on us, that's on you, right? So I'm accepting that from a moral argument, but there's plenty of people across the world who would say, no, 20,000 of the 60,000 were militants. Those are all justified. Out of the 60,000 that are confirmed dead, actually in urban warfare, a lot of other countries have worse civilian to militant ratios than Israel. So if anything, this death ratio indicates that Israel has been careful in their targeting of militants. And then on top of that, the 200,000 dead isn't on us, it's on the Palestinians. So again, you're just fucking taking L's left, right, and center while being snide about it.
They're, pro-Palestine only to just like,
yeah, this is
try
LB, this is horrible analysis.
To criticize the people who've been.
And if people are getting pissed because I'm pausing every 30 seconds in order to argue with LB, just bear in mind, like, I'm not arguing with LB because I expect to change LB's mind. I'm arguing with LB because I'm sure there's leftists who will check out the content, who might have similar lines of argumentation, who might be amenable to a different perspective.
There for a very long time, only to go out and go out of your way to just be like, I'm pro-Palestine. Okay, now that I've said it, can we really talk about what really matters? My own feelings and how annoying the left is? Like,
nobody said that. Fuck you, Hasan.
Then you're just saying that as a talking point just so you can do this other shit. It's insane. And everyone can see it. Like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Trying to carve out a little space for yourself and others like you who are, they think it's but no one should resist against it. They think it's but no one should speak out against it. They think it's but no one should protest against it. Like, what kind of position is this? Then you don't think it's because
Just creating straw men that nobody fucking has. No liberal gives two shits if you're protesting for Palestine. No liberal gives two shits if you think that there's like you should have a pro-Palestinian emancipatory movement. What they give a shit about is when you use that as a pretext to harass normie Jews and when you argue for the dissolution of the Israeli state. That's what they care about because they think that that would be a disaster for Jews. So it's not all in my feelings. It's balancing the needs of Palestinian Muslims and Jews, Israeli Jews and diaspora Jews who are sympathetic to the state of Israel. It's trying to balance two different populations who have two different needs. And how do I not to get? I'm going to be a fucking dickhead real quick. How do I not get to argue the oppressive standard for Jews? How can I not just take the when we're oppressed, we can do anything meme? And how can I not do it for Jews? Jewish population of the planet is 0.2%. It's 16 million. So how can I not say 99.8% of the Jewish population or 99.8% of the planet is not Jewish? That 2 generations ago, the Jews were almost wiped out. A third of their global population was wiped out. Ever since they moved to Israel, which is their historic homeland, they've been oppressed by Arab Palestinians who have tried to kill them multiple times. And that as a result, the truly oppressed people are the Jews, and therefore they can do whatever they want by any means necessary. How can I not flip this logic on its head and excuse some of the most horrific shit on the planet? Obviously you can. So it's bad logic.
In your framework, it doesn't, you don't believe it. You don't believe yourself. Okay. And the last point that I made was most of the liberal Zionists that were screaming after October 7, okay, that were demanding unconditional loyalty and support to the state. They either became psychotic Kahanists, okay, like Meir Kahan, or they became anti-Zionists. Like there are examples of liberal Zionists that months after October 7 turned into anti-Zionists. Maybe initially they were like very passionate, very upset at.
And there's also a shitload of people still stuck in the middle saying you're both pieces of shit. They're just not very loud because it's easy to take a stupid position on the internet and be loud about it.
Hamas. But since then, they've realized that, yeah, objectively, what Israel is doing is that this is unconscionable. This is the evolution of Zionism. And they've changed their minds. Or the last category is liberal Zionists who just stay quiet because they can read the room. There are examples of people that I have admired, okay, that, for example, I have a difference in opinion on with respect to Israel's apartheid, with respect to the genocide that Israel is doing, who can't get themselves to say that this is Israel's problem. They say it's Benjamin Netanyahu's war. They say, Israel is a right-wing place, is a fascist place, but like also...
LB says, why are American bombs being used? Because 2 generations ago, a third of international Jewish population was wiped out. The West felt bad about it because the West did it, right? Germany did it, but also the West looked the other way while they were getting wiped out. Excuse me, I'm out of breath because I'm lifting weights. So early in the 20th century, the Jews went 2 places. They went to the United States and they went to Israel. And so as a result of Jews in the United States advocating for the state of Israel, the United States in the middle 20th century eventually became a patron of Israel and sympathetic to their national narrative. They have supported them economically, diplomatically, militarily. That's why.
Simultaneously seemingly make excuses, right? There are old liberal Zionists who I admire. Bernie Sanders is one of them. But Bernie Sanders, regardless of his difference in opinion on this issue, does not make this the singular force of his political convictions. He understands that there are people who are far more radical than he is, far more invested in the emancipation of Palestinians, and he never sits there and goes, "Thank you for doing that." Okay? He doesn't do the cynical, this is anti-Semitism, this is like extreme anti-Semitism, I don't agree with this. He doesn't do that. He doesn't get in the way. As a matter of fact, he endorses people that have a more radical position than he does. I don't know what's going on in his mind, but as long as someone, regardless of their difference in opinion on this issue, okay, but as long as someone is not getting in the way of other people who are doing their very best, trying whatever they can.
LB says, you mean after they forcibly remove Palestinians from their land, right? Well, LB, if you actually analyze the history, the Jewish counter-argument is going to be that Zionists purchased, so effectively the Ottoman Empire still had some level of like feudal property rights, in the early 20th century and late 19th century. And so the Jews bought a healthy chunk of that land. They just paid the landlord for the property and then evicted the tenant farmers. So technically, a healthy chunk of the territory that you're talking about was paid for by the Jews through cash. And then not just that, during the British Mandate period, the Jews had a healthy chunk of influx of Jews escaping Europe coming into Israel. But then what also happened, so they settled those people. But during the British Mandate, there were already Palestinian and Jewish entanglements and tension over what the territory was going to look like when it was done. And in 1948, I think with the dissolution of the Mandate of Palestine, effectively what ended up happening was everybody declared war. So if 3 or 4 Arab states declared war on Israel, and then the Palestinians got out of the way so the Arab states could kill the shit out of the Israelis, and then the Israelis fought and won, then it is what it is. You fought a war, you lost. Tough shit. Right? That's not my perspective. But, if you're going to argue by any means necessary, the steelman of the Jewish position is by any means necessary. They'll guarantee the survival of the Jewish people by any means necessary. So why are you complaining? You're not complaining because of some justice that you want to restore, because you don't care about the justice that's being violated for the victims of these terrorist attacks. So it's not about justice. It's about restoring the right of the Palestinian people to territories they lost in warfare. So how is turnabout not fair play? Why can't the Israelis just say, nope, you fought a war, you lost, this is our territory now, fuck off? And they can, and they will.
When everything seems so hopeless in the face of unimaginable cruelty, when
Old school saying, is Hasan fully embracing his hatred of Jewish people? No, he says, no one has fought against anti-Semitism more than me, but here's why the Israeli state should be dissolved. That's what he's doing. Anyways, despite the seriousness of the topic, I am going to shill real quick. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat. Despite me being pissy, there are funny, interesting, cool people in chat. Super chats if you got them, much appreciated. Not required, but much appreciated. Memberships if you got them. I don't know if memberships are turned on. I keep needing to tell myself that I need to text the people who run the show in order to actually turn memberships back on. And I parasocially love you. Hope you're having fun despite the fact of the subject matter being so serious.
someone is doing when someone who has a disagreement.
I'm going to mute myself while I'm eating. Also, I get accused of fucking yapping. Dude, this dude's a fucking yapper. He's made it one paragraph through so far. Holy shit. I'm going to fast forward to the next segment because he has just been yapping.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So let's see what she said. As I said, is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. But I also feel a lot of other things. No need to say any of this stuff, honestly. One, doom. She also like presented this Reddit post like one of her videos, which is so crazy. Like with the paragraph titles and everything. The week after October 7, it was clear the mood among the Israeli leaders and civilians was overwhelmingly kill or be killed. Existential panic and unstoppable lust for revenge. It reminded me of the U.S. after 9/11. There was no reasoning or protesting them out of it, nor was it politically feasible for the U.S. to withdraw aid to Israel on a time frame that would make a difference. That's just objectively incorrect, and it makes me feel like she doesn't know enough about this issue.
Please, Hasan, please, for the love of God, just don't say it's objectively incorrect. Please tell me, because I almost guarantee you he's going to argue that AIPAC has co-opted our Congress. Please tell me how through Congress you would have gotten the United States government to defund Israel. Please explain it to me in detail. I am begging for an intelligent political analysis of how you would achieve this. Please.
Because there's only two options here. Either she's cynically misinforming people, or she just genuinely is oblivious to this reality. And I think it's the second, okay? The idea that, well, they're just bloodthirsty, not much we can do about it, is one thing, which is also crazy. Like, just because someone
within a reasonable timetable based off of the realities of Congress, you are not refuting the point, you fucking muppet. But maybe you will. Let's give him some time.
Just because a foreign entity, a foreign government is experiencing bloodlust doesn't mean that we can't protest. That is nuts.
Nobody said you can't protest, you fucking straw manning idiot. I'm actually going to get pissed off. I'm going to get super pissed off in a second. Nobody, including Natalie Wynn, said you couldn't protest. She was saying she was experiencing doom because she knew that Congress would not act to defund Israel in a timely manner. Please refute the actual point, not a point that you're making up in your fucking head, you fucking 80 IQ muppet.
Okay. But beyond that, Contrapoints is who said this. But beyond that, the notion that like it was not politically feasible for the U.S. to withdraw aid to Israel on a time frame that would make a difference is wrong. If that was the case, Biden would not have flown to Israel a week after October 7 and did the now known as the bear hug strategy with Benjamin Netanyahu, and then accelerated $14 billion in weapons transfers to Israel with haste. It's just wrong. It is.
You fucking idiot. You're not refuting the point. Does this guy have verbal comprehension issues? Is he actually fucking stupid? The point Natalie made was that there's no way that Congress would rescind funding for Israel. And Hasan Piker's counterpoint is that the federal government not only didn't rescind funding for Israel, it increased funding for Israel. What the fuck are you talking about? How is that a refutation? It feels like you're proving her point even harder. I can't believe this guy is popular. He's actually a fucking idiot.
Is just wrong information. You are incorrect.
About what, Hasan? The point, I have to say it again. Just in case there's a Hasan Piker viewer who actually watches this. The point Natalie made is that Congress would not defund Israel in a timely manner that would actually affect the potential genocide. You are saying that the federal government stepped up its support of Israel. How is that a refutation of the point that she made, you fucking muppet?
Okay, you're just wrong about this.
About what?
If this is the genuine logical framework, if these are the underlying premises that you are building your opinion off of, you're just wrong, okay?
How?
This is not even I'm not even making a moral statement here. I'm saying,
how?
You are wrong.
How?
100%. Since October 7, America is responsible for 70% of all munitions that Israel has deployed both on Gaza and all.
This guy's actually stupid. He's actually stupid. He doesn't understand what words mean. She's saying that even if you protest, you're not going to be able to rescind funding within a timely manner. Let's see if we can hear a refutation.
Munitions that have been deployed to defend Israel in their defense systems, 70%. The United States of America is the country that keeps Israel as violent as it wants to be. Israel is our attack dog in the region. It is ridiculous if Israel was not If Israel was not reliant on our endless support, both political cover at the UN and on the international stage, and also, political cover from like sanctions.
I'm convinced this guy actually has 80 IQ. I'm convinced this person is stupid. I'm surprised he got a 4-year degree. This is borderline impressive.
That would broadly be sent to any other country that was doing this level of ethnic cleansing, this much in broad daylight with Western munitions. Okay, we give it political cover, we give it protection, but most importantly, we give it directly the weapons that they use on the Palestinians. If that wasn't the case, Israel would not have a multi-billion-dollar propaganda network that steadily focuses on changing Western societal attitudes towards Israel in a positive way all the time. They would not have this sophisticated web of influence in perpetuity since the inception of the state of Israel. It's ridiculous. Okay? Why are they spending all that money then?
Cosmo says the Jews only bought less than 10% of the land, the rest they stole. No, there was a 2-state solution proposed by the British Mandate separating into the Jewish and Palestinian territory, and the Palestinians didn't accept the division, and so they fought a fucking ethno-religious purging war in 48. So you can say that the rest is stolen. No, they fought a fucking war. And then also, this is actually genuinely impressive. If you want to understand why everyone hates Hasan so much, anybody who does political analysis, this is why. Okay? Because I cannot believe that thousands of young Americans woke up and listened to this refutation of Contrapoints and thought that this was a good refutation. This is a terrible refutation. Reiterating it for the 20th time, Contra's point is that even if you're 100% on the side of Palestine, you will not be able to get Congress or the United States federal government to take away funding from the state of Israel in a timely manner in order to prevent what happens next. All that Hasan Piker has done is said, you're wrong. The federal government actually increased spending, but that's not Contra's fucking point. This guy is actually a fucking idiot.
Fun.
And if you don't see that, I don't know what to do for you.
Of course not. They're spending it because they also have to. They recognize that propaganda is an absolute necessity for this continued support. And
this has nothing to do with Contra's point. Nothing to do with it.
Continued support is an absolute must for Israel's continuation as a violent apartheid regime. One that
didn't refute it at all. I just want to point this out again. Is not refuting the main point, the main argument. He's actually missed it entirely because he's a fucking idiot.
Now doing genocide. So that's just objectively wrong. It would have required replacing most of Congress and overturning decades of bipartisan strategy and diplomacy. Bullshit. Even in the best case scenario, it would have taken years. So there was a sense of futility, but worse. 2.
She's being descriptive, by the way. She's not saying don't protest, you fucking muppet. That was supposed to be a refutation. He totally missed it.
Misery. The leftist pro-Palestine movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to the genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. Yes, of course. The leftist anti-fascist movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely the opposition to the Wehrmacht, but it was...
what a fucking idiot. The leftist pro-Palestine movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to the genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. That is opposition to the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. Yeah, you're right. You lost 80% of the people who would criticize Israel for their operation in Gaza. You lost 80% of them as soon as you said that it was about the abolition of the Jewish state. You're 100% right. Because we've had a pro-Zionist narrative within the United States for the past century, which is effectively a third of European Jews got wiped out. They moved to Israel. All the Arab states attacked them. They won their territory within, effectively by fighting these wars. This is the historic place of Jews, as mentioned in the Bible. So technically, Jews have been there for 3,200 years. And so as a result, the Jews are going to be there. You just have to fucking deal with it, right? And so when you say abolish the Israeli state, what you're talking about is Jews effectively returning to a second-class citizen status under an Arab Muslim framework. The Jews are not going to accept that. The Israelis are not going to accept that. The Americans are not going to accept that. The Christians are not going to accept that. You lost 80%. And within a democracy or a republic, which is a form of democracy, how many people support you is, of course, what influences policy. Again, you fucking Muppet.
Yes, of course. The leftist, anti-fascist.
Justin says, yes, Connor, Hasan, and Destiny are dumb. They only have clout because everyone else is banned. If you think Destiny is unintelligent, Justin, I'm not trying to be mean. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Even if you think Destiny is evil, Destiny is not unintelligent. The only way that you can arrive at the fact that Destiny is unintelligent is if you yourself are unintelligent. You understand bad people can be intelligent, right? I think Nick Fuentes is a bad person. I think he's incredibly smart. So this is a classic mistake made by mid-IQ fuckwits on the internet, is thinking that disagreeing with your perspective makes you stupid. No, only stupid people think that way.
Movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely the opposition to the Wehrmacht, but it was, or opposition to the Holocaust, but it was actually opposition to Nazism in general. That is, opposition to the existence of Germany as an Aryan state. And here they decided to draw the line separating.
How about Germany as a German state? What about Poland as a Polish state? Do you think that if in World War II, the narrative against Germany annexing Alsace-Lorraine was effectively like, not only do we need to take back Alsace-Lorraine, we also have to go into Germany and we have to flood it with French people until the fact that there's no German state again? Do you think anybody would have supported that shit? Are you fucking crazy? This dude's actually a fucking idiot. Good news is I tend to do 2-hour segments, so we only have so much suffering left. We probably got another 20 to 30 minutes of suffering left. So just bear with me, chat. We will get through it.
Decent people from genocidal fascists, which had the following consequences. It shrunk the coalition. Zionist is a very broad category. Most Jews are Zionists. Anyone
True
who supports the two-state solution is a Zionist. So here it is. Again, wrong. Wrong.
Right. We looked it up 30 seconds ago.
This is the Will Stansel tweet from October 8th. The Matt Iglesias tweet and the Will Stansel tweet from like October 8, 2023, saying the left will never survive this. What has taken place on October 7 is so horrifyingly violent that the DSA is over. The left will never survive this. There will never be a coalition that cares about Palestine ever again. And as a matter of fact, anyone who supports this is supporting October 7, and therefore there will never be a left movement in this country ever again. That's what they were saying.
No, just because you guys have fucking autism and you need to listen to everything at 2 times speed, there's plenty of normal people who listen to things at a normal pace.
That's what they were saying almost 2 years ago. Look at the situation now. The Palestinian emancipatory movement has never had this much support in the United States of America. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Also wrong. The notion that these people that were more knowledgeable on the issue of Palestine, on who was being oppressed and who was doing the oppression, and the ideological reasons for why Israel was doing this oppression, this exterminationist policy, as a direct consequence of Zionism being an ethno-religious supremacist ideology that revolves around the extermination of the indigenous population, the otherizing and the dehumanization of all Palestinians, Christian, Muslim alike, and all Arabs in general, the monolithization of all Arabs as a parasitic force is identical to the Ubermensch mentality of Nazi Germany. It is the same.
Guys, I'm gonna try to steelman this perspective. Is that Zionism, the belief that Jews have the right to a Jewish dominant homeland in the former state of Palestine, is the equivalent to Nazi Germany and its conduct for the Holocaust and is rooted in ethno-religious supremacy. Therefore, you should oppose the ideology. So all you have to do in order to actually stop the genocide is you have to have 80% of Jews, 60% of Jews, depending on the polling that we looked at, but you have to have 60% of Jews go to a left-wing oppressive analysis of history college class, agree with the college class, and then they will actually will no longer support the state of Israel. It's actually so simple, guys. All you need to do is kidnap every single Jew in the United States of America and force them to go to a left-wing historical class. And boom, genocide averted.
Exact type of fascist policymaking. It is the same exact type of fascist ideology. So for someone who has written extensively about the alt-right and the Nazis and whatnot, I am shocked at how someone like Contrapoints, who is very well read on this stuff, cannot put two and two together. It makes no sense. Okay? And it didn't shrink the coalition at all. So you're just objectively.
Thank you for the super chat. By the way, you guys are getting fucking out-donated by a groiper today. Destiny is dumb. I watched him for years. He's done politics for 10 years online and couldn't fill out a map and didn't know about Francisco Franco. Justin, ignorance is not stupidity. So do I need to bust out like a fucking map? I won't, but the point is there's a variety of kinds of intelligence. There's kinesthetic intelligence, there's academic intelligence, there's social intelligence, etc. I would say that Stephen is pretty academically intelligent. I would say he's actually pretty socially retarded. But I would say that to his face, and I think he would probably agree with me, or at least I could argue it very aggressively that he's pretty socially retarded. I'm actually socially, sorry for the ableist slur. Sorry, Ken. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Jesus. Sorry, disabled people of America. I'm pretty socially R-slurred as well. However, ignorance is not stupidity. We all start as ignorant people. We learn what we learn when we learn it. The fascist or semi-fascist early 20th century developments of Spain is not something that a lot of Americans study. And then same thing, geography. I love geography, but I've loved geography since I was like 8. So even when, I could probably fill out a majority of a map, but I'll tell you, there are plenty of African nations that I would just like guess. Like West Africa in particular, I probably know where Mali is. I might be able to guess Niger. I might be able to guess Benin. I could do South Africa for sure. But there's plenty of countries in East and Central Africa that I have no idea what the fuck they are. Same thing with South America. I can guess, or I know, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela. But Paraguay and Uruguay, what is it? British Guyana? I don't know any of that shit. You know why? Because they're not fucking important. They have no reference for me. That has nothing to do with my intelligence. So you mistaking the capacity to analyze complex information for general knowledge about topics makes me think that you haven't thought about what actually is intelligence. Intelligence is not experience or knowledge. Intelligence is the capacity to consume complex information and also gain insight into that complex information. So, wrong. Thank you for the donations.
Wrong about that. When you look at the Democratic Party's base of support, I mean, the Harry Enton CNN Holy Toledo video comes to mind. Harry Enton points to.
LB says, remember East and West Germany, Connor? Now they're one state. No shit. They also shared a ethno-religious history dating back centuries, if not millennia.
Democratic Party support for Israel and Israelis shifting more than 60 points in the direction away from being pro-Israel to being pro-Palestine by 42 points. Used to be pro-Israel by 17 points. And then post-October 7, when this ethnic cleansing campaign accelerated and everyone could see it, it turned into a plus 43 point swing in the direction of Palestinians. So this coalition has grown, and I see it. I've mentioned this over.
And yet you're not refuting the main fucking point, which is that there was no way in hell that Congress or the federal government of the United States was going to withdraw aid in a timely manner. And also, the definition of Zionism is so overly broad that the genocide effectively, in my opinion, has come close to completion. And this political wave has achieved nothing. So thanks, Hasan. You've refuted neither of Contra's points. You fucking muppet.
Over and over again. We talk about this off camera as well with other people who are who have been talking about Palestinian emancipation for decades, myself included. Like, I have seen this environment, the information environment, and the previous methods of like squashing any sort of criticism of Israel go away. It withered away. I myself am living and breathing proof. A political commentator who is able to speak convincingly on Palestinian emancipation.
Speak convincingly to fucking idiots, by the way. No offense, LB. I love you.
Since October 8, 2023, without being utterly destroyed.
And what have you achieved, Hasan? The world spun on without your commentary.
You have hundreds of thousands of people in European capitals taking to the streets, demanding an end to this bloodshed. This is unheard of. Unheard of. Something that happened quietly over the past 10 years, that the thing you're supposed to say about Israel, Palestine, and progressive circles shifted from a two-state solution message to a binationalism message, which has greatly increased intra-left coalition tension. This is on October 13th, 2023, when the spectrum of opinion ranged from stridently
True. You lost all the liberals.
Pro-Israel, but pays lip service to the two-state solution, to fired up about Israeli human rights abuses and the need for a Palestinian state. It's easy for people who don't really care, most people, to fudge it. Once you raise the stakes for what counts as sympathizing with Palestinians to the level of from the river to the sea, you generate a much more polarized debate that can't be fudged. A question that I find generally interesting in politics is, when does it make sense to try to deliberately polarize an issue? It's not never, but it's also not always. And I think the practical upshot of this particular polarization dynamic is going to be bad for Palestinians. Note, for example, that Israel-Palestine is the only issue I can think of on which Joe Biden has positioned himself to the right of Barack Obama.
Yup.
He was wrong, objectively.
No, he wasn't, you fucking idiot. God, I hate this guy. Don't worry, we'll be moving on shortly. Fashion40 for $5. Thank you for the donation, King. Ignorance is not stupidity. Try explaining that to a groiper. You'll have an aneurysm. Well, I tried.
He was wrong on this, but it's especially crazy to me to be wrong on this 20 months after the fact. Matt Iglesias is always wrong, okay? He's always the first to be wrong.
Hey, fuck you, short stack goblin. And what was he wrong about, dumbass? He literally said that it was so polarizing that you weren't going to be able to make forward political momentum. I actually... This is funny because I think this lines up neatly with a lot of political analysis with Brittany Simon, which is effectively like Hasan Piker mistakes ideological purity for political effectiveness because he doesn't understand what words mean. He thinks that having the right position is politics. No, politics is trying to have the right position, but gaining enough power in order to implement your position. That's politics. Having the ideologically correct position, but being so politically ineffective that you achieve nothing, is called having an opinion. You fucking idiot.
How are you going to be the last to be wrong? I never thought that there was a position worse than Matt Iglesias is on this issue. Yeah, Matt Iglesias is always wrong. Fork found in the kitchen. So it did not actually shrink the coalition, okay?
Yes, it did, because you gained 5 to 10% people who were more extreme about Israel-Palestine, but you lost all the liberals.
Zionist is a very broad category, yeah, by design. And there's a lot of lies being told about what Zionism is. Also by design.
Feel free to explain it, Hasan. I have a feeling that I represented it pretty accurately based off of you and your fucking supporters.
This is the reason why Zionism is oftentimes in the media covered as like, do you care as a Jew about the state of Israel? But you know what's never talked about?
That's the stat that we looked up, Hasan. But when I talk to leftists similar to you, they're talking about the abolition of Israel as a Jewish state. So you're going to have to tell me how that's different and wrong. If you don't, I'm going to assume you're too stupid to explain this.
Because I don't know why. Well, I do know why we centered this conversation around Jews. Okay.
This dude is a fucking word salad machine. It's actually impressive.
But there is a far larger force of
LB says, Connor, why don't Israelis have an ethnic connection with Palestine? Maybe because they're from Europe. Wrong. There's two populations within the Jewish community when it comes to ethnos, Sephardic and Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi are from Europe. Sephardic are from the Middle East and North Africa. There were also, arguably, plenty of Palestinians who are now Muslim, who were Jews, who converted at the tip of a sword. So saying that 1,000 years ago, there was a cultural genocide, therefore Jews are no longer part of the region, is like, it's so morally laughable. I don't even know what your fucking point is. We have like anthropological evidence suggesting a Jewish presence in Israel dating back to 1,200 years before Christ. So pretending that the religion and the people who observe that religion have nothing to do with that region and that they might as well be European is fucking, it's cope. It's just cope.
Of Zionism around the globe, throughout history, and certainly in the United States of America, that is far more consequential and has outsized control in American politics than Jews and their opinion on Israel. It's evangelical Zionism. Kufi is the largest donation group to the settlement.
I'm going to give Hasan a olive branch. The one thing that I respect about his content is he does have good recall. So I do not think Hasan is particularly intelligent, but I do think he has a good memory. That is the closest thing to charity that I can extend to Hasan.
Project to Israel in general in this country, Christians United for Israel. It is evangelical Christians that are the force. This is why I have always said that even if...
Sorry, I have to pause again. This is hilarious. LB says, hey, Connor, progressives don't give a fuck about libs. Corpo Dems, Republicans light. Any taking APAC dollars on the Dem side is in for a rude awakening. Oh, so LB, what you basically said is, we don't give a fuck about 60 to 80% of the party. So we're actually going to split the base and we're just going to keep losing to MAGA. That's what you just said to me, which is fucking hilarious because everything you care about will get worse. That's actually really funny. And it kind of shows the crabs in a bucket mentality of the left. This is why I don't want to join the Democrats. Like LB, you yourself / other people who are Democrats or liberals or progressives. They're like, hey, Connor, very clearly the Republican Party has run away screaming in the opposite direction of your normie Republican politics. Why don't you please come over to the left? It's because of this sentence that you just said right here. That's why I'm never going to identify with the left. That's why I'm not going to be a fucking liberal to your progressive. It's because I know the second that I go, oh, yeah, you know what? I'm a liberal. I actually like the Democratic Party. Turns out Biden is based and, taking money from dozens of international corrupt organizations to funnel back into your family. That's actually just funny. That's not corruption. Do you know what's going to fucking happen is the far left wing is going to stab the corpo Democrats in the fucking back and make it all lose. So no, I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in the center left, center right alliance against the fringes, and the fringoids can go fuck themselves. How about that? Sorry, I've used the F-bomb a lot today, but you guys are bringing it out in me. Ryan Harbill for $20. Thank you for your donation, King. Says, been a Democrat for years, and I respect how you call out your own side. You challenge my views in a way that cuts through the noise and helps me avoid the echo chamber. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Ryan. I actually genuinely appreciate it. Thank you to Justin. Thank you to Fashion 40. Thank you to Ryan. I'm actually going to shill real quick, even though the topic is obviously very serious. Like the stream. The streaming is liking the stream is free. Engage in the chat. There's really intelligent and funny and interesting people in chat, despite the fact that LB constantly pisses me off. Then engage with the VODs, watch the VODs, comment on the VODs. It gives me that sweet, sweet AdSense revenue. And I don't know if I said super chats yet, but super chats if you got them. And then memberships when we get memberships turned back on. Thank you to our donors. Thank you to our viewers. All right.
Every single American Jew tomorrow.
LB says, and that's why progressives are just better humans. We care about truth and justice. LB, earlier you were making moral excuses for people getting decapitated. Don't get on your fucking high horse. Are you shitting me? You were literally like, by any means necessary. Just kidding. I don't mean decapitations, but also by any means necessary. Pick a lane. Pick a lane. You're not better than anybody else. As a matter of fact, your logic of oppressor versus oppressed leading to people getting fucking raped and murdered actually kind of makes you an asshole.
Turned around and said, I'm an anti-Zionist. America's foreign policy and its association with Israel would not change, especially in the short term.
Short Stack says Sephardic are the Iberian and Moroccan. You mean Mizrahi for Middle East? Got it. Okay, there's 3 ethnic groups. Learn something new every day.
Because America's investment in Israel has nothing to do with Jews as a special category or as a special class. It has everything to do with material interest. Okay? Now, having said that, has there been a lot of influence peddling in the process over the course of the past 77, 78?
He literally hasn't refuted a single fucking point. I'm going to let him, I'm actually going to fast forward because he's actually only good when he's reading Natalie's words. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the next point. Then let's watch him totally miss the point, and then let's move to the next segment.
Okay, with the Suez Canal. That's it. That's precisely why Joe Biden said in the 90s, if Israel didn't exist, we'd make one. He was right. He was honest about America's framework on this issue. It was politically infeasible. What is the pathway that takes us from a present situation to the dissolution of Israel as a Jewish state? I don't see how this could happen without either a total internal collapse of Israeli.
LB says, I never condone the beheading. Yeah, you said by any means necessary. One of the means is beheading and kidnapping and rape and murder. Those are the any means necessary that you're talking about. Shadow 2 Bravo says, good morning, Connor. Hasan should be given 0 credit ever. Being a Turkish commie means the only reason to deal with him is with a sword. Long live Greece. Not a sword, but I would build a trebuchet in Cuba. Well, no. I would build a trebuchet in Key West, and then I would fire him in the general direction of Cuba. And I would also like just put a raft out there for hit like with a paddle, like a palm frond paddle. And I would just station the Coast Guard around Hasan, and if he tries to swim back to Florida, their orders would be to shoot to kill. But if he swims towards Cuba, then he can try to make it to Cuba. That would be my solution for Hasan Piker if I was dictator. All right, sorry. Let me rewind a second.
Society, or else Israel's a Jew in the 90s because infeasible framework.
So let's watch him read Natalie. Not understand Natalie, say a point totally unrelated to what's going on, and then we'll wrap it up.
On this issue, it was politically infeasible. What is the pathway that takes us from a present situation to the dissolution of Israel as a Jewish state? I don't see how this could happen without either a total internal collapse of Israeli society or else, nuclear war. As usual, leftists have championed a doomed cause.
She's being descriptively accurate. Let's see how he misses the point.
And at this point, it's like it turns into just your own personal, incredibly petty, incredibly self-centered attitude about
what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking idiot? She's literally describing. Natalie is literally describing, literally, she wrote it down. Describing how lefties have picked a position so extreme that it renders them politically unpopular, which is descriptively true. What the fuck are you talking about?
What you think the online left is doing. It turns into just like looking at an issue that is black and white and saying, well, it's the worst crime that you can ever do, genocide, but the leftists are just like being crazy about it. Like, this is just your...
Nope. That's not what she said at all, you fucking idiot. She actually said, If you limited it to the critique of the genocide, then that would be politically palatable to more people. So you would be able to build a broader coalition, which, by the way, would include the dissident right and would include the liberal left. But he actually thinks that because he started with an extreme position and then that extreme position grew by 5%, that he's somehow politically winning. This isn't politics, okay? Politics is about gaining and wielding power in order to achieve outcomes. Hasan, once again, has mistaken politics for having an opinion that he believes is correct. That's not politics, you muppet.
Stupid gripes with leftist people online and what you perceive as like the broader movement, the broader pro-Palestinian movement. Okay? The
Is you muppet.
internal collapse of Israeli society is going to happen. It is inevitable because
Just like the collapse of capitalism is inevitable. Of course, Hasan. Of course, you are as inevitable as the alt-right. You are as inevitable as Nick Fuentes and the Groypers. Just everyone eventually is going to come around to you. 100%. Keep going with this, please, so you remain politically irrelevant for another century. Please, God, keep this attitude and keep this energy.
because it is built on the foundation of ethnic cleansing. Okay, it is propped up. It doesn't have the
No, it's not. Because if you have 80% Jews within the current state of Israel with 20% Arab Palestinians who are actually treated as some level of normal citizen, who get due process rights, who have property rights, have representatives within the government, et cetera, then no, actually, it's not totally based on ethnic cleansing, is it? Right? Right? They don't want to give the West Bank and they don't want to give the Gazans representation because then they become a demographic minority. However, it stands to reason that they can either allow the West Bank and allow Gaza to become a state, or they can annex it slowly over the course of hundreds of years and eventually overpopulate the Muslims within it, and then as a result, maintain a demographic majority. So no, they don't need to commit a Holocaust in order to win. They can just fight this battle over the course of centuries rather than decades.
the chattel slavery and the colonial extraction that the American government had, where it could have completed its ethnic cleansing as America.
Christian Blair says, don't normalize bonger insults by using Muppet. Listen, the words that I want to say, I'm not allowed to say.
It did to the indigenous population here, and then continue on with its imperial project. Okay? Israel cannot maintain this without unlimited support from the United States of America. Whereas the
I think they can, actually. All right, I'm going to Google this, and we're going to move into our next segment. So let's take a look at it. Israeli GDP is 500 billion, and we give them 3 billion. U.S. aid to Israel annual, 4 billion. Yeah, actually, this is such bullshit. Israel federal budget. Israel's 2025 state budget is projected to total 600 billion with additional budget adjustments of roughly 37 billion. Yeah, they don't need us. They don't need us. They could carve off 4 billion from this 500 billion and they would be fine. That's actually crazy. That's actually crazy. So no, Hasan's just wrong again. I don't know why he would have good political analysis, but say lovey. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a post content wrap, and let's go ahead and move into the next content. So for a post content wrap, Natalie Wynn actually is intelligent and has a decent amount of political insight and analysis. She's too far left for me, but I can actually see the way that she backs up her arguments. Hasan Piker actually has 80 IQ. He is incapable of contending with argumentation. He effectively, the reason why I was reading from chat every 2 minutes was because if I actually listened to Hasan Piker talk to me, I'm pretty sure I just would have died from brain damage, because every time he mentioned something, it was actually not refuting what Natalie Lynn was saying. He was just throwing out word salad at the screen. And the fact that he's a popular content creator drives me fucking nuts. End of segment. I parasocially love you. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow over on Counterpoints. Bye for now.